The anime starts by introducing us to Lisa Mikhailovna Kujo, who is also known as Alia, the Ice Queen at Savoie Academy. She is an honor student with Russian heritage, a freshman, and she holds the highest grades in the entire school. Alia also serves as the treasurer of the student council. Her arrival at the academy quickly caught the attention of many students, but Alia always keeps up her image as the perfect girl, even going as far as to reject the most popular boys. The only boy she greets is Amasachika Kusi, the protagonist whom she finds asleep in class. She wakes him up by kicking his desk and asks him if he stayed up all night watching anime, which he does not deny. Despite his lazy, carefree attitude, Alia doesn't hesitate to mention how adorable he is, although she says this in Russian so he won't understand. What he doesn't know is that Kusei understands perfectly everything she says, because as a child he used to play with a Russian girl who lived near his grandfather's house. Back then, he learned Russian and spoke it quite fluently, though he never imagined it would lead him into such an absurd situation. After all, Alia frequently flirts with him in Russian, but he chooses to act as if he doesn't understand her. This is because if she discovers the truth, she will likely not react well and would feel very embarrassed. When the class concludes, Alia notices Kusei taking out her phone, so she gently reminds him that, aside from emergencies, cell phones are strictly prohibited at school. He clarifies that it is indeed an emergency in that case, as the free pull of her game runs out in 10 min. This makes her very happy, and seeing that he pays no attention, Alia confiscates her phone in one fell swoop. There he notices that Kusei was very happy to win a character named Tsukuyomi, which refers to the moon goddess of Japanese mythology, although he doesn't understand why her hair is silver and not black. He comments that maybe it's a nod to the moon, but the point is that he thinks she's very cute. Alia, not pleased with this, returns his phone and remarks in Russian that her hair is also silver, accusing him of being unfaithful. This surprises him, but Kusei pretends not to understand. When he inquires about her comment, Alia alters the translation, explaining that she merely called him a video game addict. Soon after, Kusei opts to head to the cafeteria with his friends Hikaru and Takeshi, who often pay attention to the student council girls. When they arrive on the scene, among them is Yuki Suo, Alia, and her older sister, Maria Mikhailovna Kujo, better known as Masha. Kusei's friends mention that the Russian sisters are very beautiful, although Masha keeps rejecting everyone saying she has a boyfriend. They think that Yuki must also be engaged, since she comes from a rich family, and on the other hand, Yusen Al already only talks to Kusei, something that makes them feel very jealous. For a brief moment, Yuki locks eyes with Kusei, prompting her to walk over to their table with a friendly smile. She asks if she can join them. He casually agrees, though his friends become quite anxious. Alia also joins the table, and, observing Yuki's ease in conversing with Kusei, inquires if they are friends, noting their apparent closeness. Yuki confirms this, elaborating that they have been childhood friends, having known each other since their kindergarten days. Kusei asks them both if they are friends, and Yuki clarifies that they are in the process, or at least she would like to be his friend. A bit embarrassed, she comments that she doesn't think she could have much fun being friends with them, though Yuki's kindness convinces her a bit. Kusei's friends decide to leave the table, not putting up with the cheerful atmosphere. Taking advantage of that, Yuki asks Kusei if she has considered his offer to join the school board. He refuses again, and seeing Alia's surprise, Yuki explains that in high school she was the president and he was the vice president, but he clarifies he only did it because elections required a partner. Later, after Yuki says goodbye, Alia mentions she's surprised he gets along with Yuki, thinking no girl would want to be his friend. Somewhat confused, Kusei says she doesn't know what he's talking about, as she already has a friend and it's her. This takes her by surprise, but she acknowledges that they are indeed friends, and soon after we see Alia leave with a smile. Right here we see a flashback to Kusei's childhood, where he spent his afternoons playing in the park with that girl with whom he only spoke Russian. He didn't master the language so well, but she helped him when needed, and they enjoyed watching the sunset together. Before going back home, Kusi intensely learned Russian just to speak with her, but now he can't even recall her name, though he still dreams of those times. The following day in class, he has to clean the classroom early, and when Alia comes in, he sees one of her socks is dirty. She says a truck splashed it on the road, but she has extra socks. That being said, he starts to remove his sock, and noticing Kusi's nervous reaction, he smiles and requests her to bring his sock to him. Feeling quite anxious, Kusi agrees and becomes panicked when she asks him to put it on. She comments that she thought it would be a fitting prize for someone like him for fetching her the sock. However, in Russian, she adds that it is also a reward for her, fully confident that only she understands that. Despite seeming so self-assured, once Kusi begins to put the sock on him, Alia becomes very nervous and uneasy. Kusi's hand accidentally touches a forbidden place, so Alia gets upset, and without thinking, she kicks him. Sometime later, he begs her to forgive him, though she readily accepts, apologizing for kicking him. Kusi is relieved, but when she nervously approaches, he thanks her for showing him something so beautiful, which gives away the fact that he saw more than he should have. Feeling extremely embarrassed and more upset than ever, Alia hits him and hurls insults at him in Russian before running all over the school. After 10 minutes of running, Kusi finally catches up with her, and she is calmer, admitting that she is also partly to blame. He apologizes once more and decides to make it up to her by giving her his favorite drink. Sometime later, on a different school day, Kusi meets Yuki at the warehouse to assist her in tidying up the school's storage room. However, Alia is present as well, and she seizes every chance to remind them to quit chatting so much and concentrate on their tasks. Despite being intensely focused on her work, Alia is evidently envious. She comments in Russian that she desires attention too and asks Guz to spend time with her. She believes he is completely unaware of what she is saying, yet Kusi does his utmost to manage her reactions. After cleaning up, the girls thank Kusi, and soon Kensaki, the student council president, arrives. He tells Kusi he's heard a lot about his talent. Kusi thanks him, noting his aura, as he's the superstar president. Kusi tries to leave, but Kensaki stops him, saying it would be a shame to leave empty-handed after helping so much with. Yusand is still in the storehouse, so he offers to go to dinner. Yuki tells him that when he gets home he won't have dinner ready, so he should accept somewhat strangely. Kensaki asks him how he knows Kusi's home situation, to which Kusi replies that they have simply known each other since they were kids. Kensaki then decides to invite both Yuki and Aya, and Kusen has no choice but to accept. The four of them arrive at a cafe soon after, and Kensaki comments on how surprised he is that they finished tidying up the warehouse so quickly. He was assuming that it would take them the whole day. Yuki clarifies to him that this is because Kusi is amazing, as he handles the physical work and paperwork like it's nothing, and is a top-notch master of ceremonies and negotiator. Kensaki comments that she doesn't usually praise someone so much, and for that reason she asks Kusi Yusand wants to join the council. The latter apologizes to him, since he doesn't want to know about student councils anymore, and even with Yuki's constant insistence, they keep refusing. Kensaki explains that Yuki doesn't have the council president position guaranteed, as there are other candidates, including Alia. Alia confirms this by mentioning that she intends to run against Yuki next year. They all head home soon after, and Kusi attempts to walk Alia Sveitausendine home. However, she only allows him to accompany her for a short while before telling him she's okay now. When Kusi gets home, Yuki greets him and asks if he walked Alia home. He inquires about her presence there, and she responds by saying she's planning to spend the night with him. At this point, we discover that Yuki is actually Kusi's sister, a fact she conceals by claiming they are childhood friends. The following morning, Yuki greets Kusi with a cheerful good morning, throwing herself onto his bed. However, he remarks that they ceased being good at that exact moment. Nevertheless, she motivates him to rise and enjoy a delightful day with his little sister. Soon after, they both go to the mall, and after watching a movie, they decide to go shopping, which was the goal all along. While looking at clothes in a store, They start talking regarding that they saw something silver, and Yuki presumes to have one sixth sense when it comes to seeing familiar faces. And with this confesses that he notices that Alia has been watching them since they arrived on that floor. Kusi is unsure about what to do regarding the situation, but Yuki doesn't hesitate and decides to head directly towards Alia. Kusi feels he has no other option but to follow along and greet her as well. As they approach her quite unexpectedly, Alia becomes a bit nervous, but she tries her best to appear casual. She explains to them that she's there to shop for clothes. Yuki then asks if she'd like to join them for lunch. Kusi points out that if they do plan to eat together, they should consider going to a different restaurant since they initially intended to visit a place that serves spicy ramen, which Alia typically doesn't enjoy. Would bear. Still, she insists that it's okay. So they end up going to the spicy food restaurant they planned. Even though they order the least spicy thing on the menu, Alia can't stand it, and Yuki only makes it worse when he makes her try something that accentuates the spiciness in her mouth. After that suffering, Yuki leaves them alone. Once in the park, Kusi decides to buy Alia an ice cream to make up for the restaurant. Kusi decides to ask her the reason she wants to chair the council. He is taken aback when she suddenly says that she wants to do it just because she feels like it. She doesn't need a specific reason to aim higher, and she doesn't rely on anyone else. She's also looking for someone to assist her with the vice chair position, as she needs another person to fill that role beside her. At that moment, she mentions that she wishes it were him, but she speaks in Russian. This doesn't please Kusi, who recalls nothing for a few moments, happy connected to that position. Putting that aside, he makes the decision to go with her shopping, and Alia tries on a variety of clothes to ask for his opinion. Initially, she feels somewhat nervous, but soon after, she is thrilled with Kusi's compliments, so she decides to try on something a bit more daring. However, just as she pulls open the dressing room curtain, she is frozen in shock to see that Yuki is there too. So without uttering a word, she quickly closes the curtain again. Later, the three of them leave by train, and Alia spends the whole trip in the clouds until she realizes that Yuki and Kusi got off at the same station. When they get home, Masha notices that she's in a slump, and when Alia tells her what happened, she doesn't seem too surprised, as she knows she always gets upset when it comes to Kusu-san. She asks him if he likes her, and Alia clarifies that they are just friends, but Masha wants to know how that happened, as she was supposed to hate lazy people who didn't care about nothing. From here, we go back 6 years into the past. It's a time when Alia finds herself in Vladivostok, which is a city located in Russia. Back then, her school teacher gave them an assignment. They were instructed to form groups and work on a report about the local stores. The group that did the best job would be rewarded with a prize. Alia decided to aim for the top and put a significant amount of effort into her reports. However, she soon realized that her group mates weren't taking it as seriously as she was. They argue because of that, not understanding why it's so important to her, and in the end, another group ends up winning the prize. Alia blamed herself, recognizing that she was wrong to expect anything from them. From that day on, she realized that there is no one else with the same determination as hers, and so she has to do everything alone. Years later, Alia finally enters the academy where she is now, after much studying. However, after meeting Kusi, who was asleep in class, he realizes that even in a high-prestige academy like this, there are slackers. Time passes, and now we see that there are 2 weeks left until the school festival, so Alia is left alone working late. When her classmates say goodbye to her, they mention that it's just a festival and not to take it so seriously. Alia manages to hear that, noting that she has repeated herself as she has in her past. Still, she thinks she just wants to do the best she can and not throw in the towel, and if that way she's left alone, she doesn't care. Suddenly, the living room door opens, and it's Kusi, who mentions that he already knew he would find her there. He advises Alia to go home, as they will work together tomorrow. Noticing that she has no intention of leaving, Gussie tells her that the craft club has agreed to assist them with the costumes. Later, she shows her a permit to stay overnight at the school. She was able to obtain this because she requested the former council president to use some influence, and she informed the craft club that the boys would assist. After all, if they present it as a chance to impress the girls, the boys would definitely be eager to help out. Therefore, he once again advises her to go home, as she doesn't have to do everything alone. Those last words change Alia's temperament, who tells him that yes, she is going to participate. She wants it to be a good attraction. She doesn't want it to be something half done, and she refuses that it doesn't have quality. But she knows that she says this for ego and understands that they don't care as much as she does. That's why she carries all the effort. But even so, she doesn't think that what she does is a bad thing. After a few seconds, Kusi mentions to him that he is trying too hard, because a person alone can't create just one attraction. A school festival is meant for everyone to work together, and if he truly wants to make the best attraction, he should focus more on how to motivate others. Gus knew that saying something like that would make her angry, so he apologizes, understanding that she puts in a lot of effort, and it's something he really appreciates. Alia silently walks away, pondering what might be troubling him. As the days pass, she slowly observes that the entire room is diligently working on organizing the festival, and she starts to feel a bit more connected with her classmates. When the day of the festival finally arrives, their hard work pays off, and their haunted house attraction is a success. They end up winning the prize for the best attraction. Shortly after that, during the dance occurring after the festival, Aya expresses her gratitude to Kusi. She mentions that he was correct in his advice, and she was mistaken, acknowledging that had she attempted to handle everything by herself, she would have missed out on experiencing the festival entirely. By saying this, she is apologizing for having taken her frustrations out on him once more. Even though Kusi tries to downplay the situation, Aya is persistent, emphasizing that she still feels she bothers him. She wishes to sincerely apologize and is eager to repay this debt in any way possible. She inquires if he desires anything, prompting Kusi to ponder for a moment. Eventually, he expresses his wish for her to allow him to call her by her nickname. He is aware of a Russian tradition where individuals bestow special nicknames upon one another. Alia consents to this, and Kusi feels content, being the sole person in the class with such a privilege. Shortly thereafter, a group of boys approaches Alia, requesting her to dance. They persist in their request, even after she refuses them. Therefore, Kusi clarifies to them that she is with him and takes her to dance at that moment, while she feels that her heart is about to burst. When Alia finishes telling the story, Masha mentions that it sounds like a beautiful romance, though Alia disagrees. Masha tells her that she and Sa were like that too, showing her a picture on her pendant, though Alia asks her to brag elsewhere. The next day, we see Kusi, who goes to the student council to cover for Yuki, and here we meet Masha, Alia's sister and secretary to the council. When she approaches him, she suddenly takes his hand, but upon closer inspection she freezes, and the next thing she does is ask him what his name is. He replies that his name is Masachika, which means with diplomacy. Masha is left wondering about his name, but after a few long seconds she apologizes, clarifying that she was very happy to meet a friend of Alja. After that, he asks her if they can leave now, but he does so in Russian. Kusi, still pretending he doesn't understand the language, asks him what he said. Masha takes a moment to respond, turning around to clarify the meaning of those words. Shortly after, they both head out shopping, and Ku is somewhat puzzled by Masha's behavior, wondering if she is always like this when they go shopping together. He becomes lost in thought, recalling some not-so-pleasant memories, and Masha notices his distraction. He assures that nothing is wrong, but Masha still comes to him to comfort him and whispering that everything will be fine. This leaves him speechless, and in his head Kusi wonders what she is feeling, as it feels familiar and very soothing. Once they return to the student council, Kensaki thanks him again and decides to ask him once more if he wants to join the council. Kusi answers no, as she doesn't think she is good for the council, and being there won't help her accomplish any particular goal. Kensaki inquires what is wrong with that, considering he became president to win over the heart of the girl he liked, which is a far worse motive than he might have. He put in his utmost effort to become a man worthy of being Chisaki Sarashina's boyfriend, and leading the school board was a part of that journey. Therefore, the point is, he doesn't require a proper motive to join, especially since even Masha joined just because Chisaki 2009 asked her to do so. Masha agrees, saying that the reason he joins isn't important, but his actions while he's here are. Whether it's for love or friendship, as long as he does what's needed to help humans. Kusi successfully communicates his point and decides to consider it. Shifting topics, he inquires about Aya's whereabouts, and Kensaki tells him she's resolving a conflict between the baseball and soccer teams. The baseball team is having interscholastic games around this time, and they need the field for training. However, the soccer team has reached the regional preliminaries, so they requested permission to use the field as well. Alja is going to mediate between the two teams because neither is willing to give in, and professional scouts are coming to observe the baseball team. After that, Kusei says goodbye and leaves the room, deciding to go check in case they are having a dispute. Upon arrival, Alya is actually in trouble, as both teams argue in an unfriendly manner and neither wants to give in. She realizes what it takes to carry everything alone and knows that she is now paying the price for the decision she made. This causes her to let out a few tears, not knowing what else to do, although no one notices this. On the other hand, Kusei feels sorry for her, but decides that it will serve as good experience for her, so he will let her deal with it alone. Just before he leaves, however, he hears some words spoken in Russian. Surprised, he realizes that Alya is asking for help in his native language. He retraces his steps, thinking that this must be why Alya is alone, as she always says such things in a language that no one else understands. Gu enters the place, introducing himself as a new member of the student council. In a short amount of time, he manages to resolve the situation between the two teams, reaching a fair agreement. Yusenaya is quite shocked, and when they both leave the place, Kus apologizes to her for butting in and rushing things, as this made her look bad, though she says it's okay. Soon after, they see that the president is waiting for them, quite pleased to see that they were able to settle the matter thanks to Kusa, though he notes that this seemed to be planned. He then asks her if she has already made a decision, and Kusa finally says yes, 2009, agreeing to have the honor to be part of the school council. Already at night, Kusei and Alya walk alone towards the exit, and the latter complains that he feels he has fallen into Kensaki's trap, but he thinks it is time to surrender to fate. Alya then asks him if he is joining the council to run for election with Yuki. Kusei asks her what she would do if that were the case, wanting to know if she would forget about being president. Of course, she replies with a firm no, still determined to become the president of the council. Even if she has to confront him, she has no intention of giving up. Kusei smiles knowingly because he already expected that response. She has always been that resolute. At that moment, Kusei decides to tell her that he will ensure she becomes the president of the council. He promises to do everything in his power to support her, assuring her that she will never be alone. She can always count on him, so he suggests she should just be quiet and take his hand. Feeling quite surprised and deeply moved, Alya expresses her gratitude to him, gently taking his hand. She then says something in Russian, words that emerge from the emotion of the moment. Ku, however, is left perplexed by these words. For what Alya just said to him translates to, "I like you" in Russian. Yet he finds himself unable to respond, as she is unaware that he understands her language. This surprising moment triggers a memory, taking him back to one of those beautiful times from his childhood with a girl he had once met. He rejoices in the realization that he is still able to experience such feelings even now. Alya realizes that he is thinking about another girl, and due to the nonsense, Kusei ends up slapping him and though he then takes her hand again, and they return home. When they arrive at Alja's residence, she asks about his cheek before leaving, but Kusei assures her that he is fine. Still, she decides to give him a kiss on the cheek and say goodbye, leaving him speechless. Back in her room, Alya becomes very upset about what she herself said, not wanting to accept that Kusei likes her. Soon after, Masha arrives, who comments to her that Kusei is very charming, why already understanding well why her sister likes him. Aya is still in denial, but Masha mentions that it's adorable that she hides her feelings. She also advises her that she should hurry up and tell him how she feels, or she won't be able to do it if it's taken away by someone else. On the other hand, we see that Kusei returns home alone. Thinking a lot about what happened, he realizes that Alya has really been flirting with him seriously until now, as what he mentioned today that it truly came from his heart. Yet, just like Alya, Kusei remains in denial about the concept of romance. He feels this way even more when he recalls the arguments his parents had when he was a child. Not feeling at ease with this, he believes that love is an unpredictable and unreliable emotion. Therefore, he thinks he's foolish to be concerned about it. He doesn't see himself as significant enough to support Alja, knowing well that he left home and took on Yuki's last name. Upon arriving at his kazaku, he discovers his sister in the bathroom, and she was waiting just to yell at him, calling him a pervert fulfilling one of his otaku fantasies. He isn't impressed at all. Shortly after, she goes to his room to ask if he joined the council as planned. Kusei confirms that he did, but also shares that he has decided to support Alya for the position of council president in the upcoming election. After a few seconds of silence, Yuki suddenly jumps in and yells that Alya messed up and stole her brother. Feeling somewhat annoyed, Yuki asks him to cheer her up. Kusei agrees and begins to comb her hair. As she becomes calmer, Yuki thanks him for the sibling rivalry, and Kusei apologizes, making it clear that she doesn't dislike him or anything, though she mentions that she already knows this. After sharing a few more jokes, Yuki leaves the room. However, when they are alone, she is surprised that her brother, he thinks it's a pity it wasn't her, yet he doesn't mind, as he won't lose regardless. The following day in class, Alya feels oddly nervous, and notices Kusei appearing more radiant than usual, at least from her view. As class begins, she observes him focused instead of dozing off as he typically does, leaving her quite puzzled. She starts to believe he might truly change his behavior for her, especially when they're in the gym. Kusei unexpectedly gets hit in the head by the ball, prompting him to leave the game to take a break. Alya, concerned about his well-being, follows him to check if he's all right. Despite Kusei assuring her that he's fine, she insists on measuring his temperature with hers, an action that makes him feel slightly uneasy. Kusei can't help but let his gaze linger on Alya, captivated by her, even when she does something as simple as adjusting her hair. Later, when they go to get a drink of water, the way Alya looks at him is so impactful that it compels him to submerge his head in the water to cool down. He immerses his head in cold water to calm himself down. Around this time, Masha arrives and offers him her towel. Although he initially refuses her help, she insists by wrapping the towel around him and starts drying him off without hesitation. Then, by another stroke of good fortune, Kusei is presented with a wonderful new sight, something so astonishing that it leaves him in shock, as he has never witnessed anything like it before. With this, the two begin to converse about various things. As they start getting along, Alya decides to take him away to bid farewell to Masha. Despite everything, Alya continues to treat him with kindness, which is something he is reluctant to reciprocate. Kusei still doesn't get it. She explains that her behavior is due to feeling down all day, and she is just concerned that something might be wrong with him, nothing more. Kusei clarifies that she simply went out without eating breakfast and didn't fall asleep in class because she was starving, and she actually slept very well during the night. Alya then reverts to her usual self and gets upset with him because she couldn't sleep well due to the events, yet he behaves as if nothing occurred, dismissing the entire situation. As they make their way to the student council, they finally meet Kenzaki's girlfriend in person, who is none other than Vice President Chisaki Sarashina. Kusei had already heard about her, but now he has witnessed firsthand just how intimidating she can be. He saw the respect that both the soccer and baseball teams have for her, even to the point of calling her boss. When the others arrive, Kensaki decides to commence the council meeting. With all the members present, he asks Kusei to be the first to introduce himself. This individual rises and introduces himself as Masashika Kusei, who will oversee the council's general affairs. Next year, he and Alya will run for election, and he hopes to get along well with everyone. With that, Kusei becomes an official member of the council. Kensaki requests that he accompany Masha to work. He believes she will integrate smoothly due to her past experience, yet he still wants her to collaborate with others as she learns the workings of everything. Yuki then informs that she will be going to talk to the art club about their exhibition, and since she knows they will be talking about the budget, she wants Alya, the treasurer, to accompany her. They both leave the room after that, so Alya takes the opportunity to talk to her alone. She tells her that she will be running for president alongside Kusei, although Yuki tells her that she already knows that, as he told her last night. Alya clarifies that that's all she meant and doesn't plan to apologize because she hasn't done anything wrong. Yuki accepts this without a problem, realizing that Kusei chose this on his own, and she has no say in it, though she does feel sorry that he didn't choose her. As if she can interpret what Alya is thinking very well, Yuki confirms to her that she loves Kusei more than anyone else in the whole world. Alya is shocked after hearing that big statement, and Yuki makes it clear to her that he means it. 4. He loves Kusei even more than his father and mother. Yuki decides to press Alia and asks her if she likes Kusa, if she is in love with him, because she already said how much she loves him, and now it is her turn to be honest. Cornered, Alia replies that she can't say if she is in love or not, but she won't let him keep him because Kusei is hers. After hearing that statement, Yuki simply smiles, mentioning that she is satisfied with getting all this out of him, retreating to go to the art club. Returning to Kusei, he realizes just how incredibly skilled Masha is at working. However, he can't quite say the same for Chisaki due to her clumsiness. Masha then suggests that they should take a break and starts preparing tea for them. As she does this, she begins to share with him that her family used to drink tea all year round when they lived in Russia. Since he knows that her mother is Japanese, he agrees to let her serve him tea with jam, just like they used to drink it back home. Masha asks him if he's knowledgeable about Russia, and Kusei responds that he doesn't know much, but he did watch many Russian films with his grandfather. However, he thinks to himself that this was just the start, as he actually studied a lot to communicate with that girl from his childhood. Moments later, Yuki enters the classroom smiling, but Alia doesn't seem as enthusiastic. Soon, Kusei notices tension between Alia and Yuki, realizing something occurred after the reunion. He accompanies Alia on the way, thinking that Yuki surely did something she shouldn't have. Because of this, he decides to take her for a coffee and asks her if something happened with Yuki, although she curtly denies it. Suddenly, she asks him if he is dating Yuki, and Kusei answers bluntly that he is not. Seeing her hesitation, he explains that Yuki is not the nice and polite lady she appears to be, and that he is teasing her to see how she reacts. Putting that topic aside for now, Kusei begins to discuss the elections with her, being honest in admitting that currently, they have no chance of defeating Yuki. Typically, there are 3 pairs of candidates at this stage, and actually, at the start of high school, their council had 6 pairs. This meant there were 12 hopefuls, but half of them withdrew from the student congress before the elections took place. Noticing that Alia doesn't quite grasp this, he goes on to explain that the student congress is similar to a debate competition among students. If the soccer and baseball teams hadn't come to an agreement, they would have debated it at the student congress to see who won. When they debate policies, one side beats the other. It creates a hierarchy in the eyes of many students. Not all candidates join the school council, but the lack of people this year is not normal, as none have hopes of beating Yuki. Alia understands everything he says, but internally complains that Kusen is not affected by being on a date with a pretty girl. Just then, he comes up with a brilliant idea and asks her if she'd like to try some of his dessert, offering her the spoon she's using. Kusei becomes nervous at the thought of using the same spoon, so Alia becomes more assertive in persuading him to agree, even claiming that this is common in Russia. Although this is clearly untrue, Kusei still ends up taking the ice cream from her spoon, feeling inwardly uncomfortable as it was an indirect kiss. In spite of that, he manages to conceal his reaction well, saying that it is delicious. Returning to the topic of the election against Yuki, Kusei explains to her that going head-on against her won't do any good, and they should run a campaign that shows another approach. He gives the example of the current president, as one of last year's candidates chaired the council at Aria High School, and yet the winner of the election was Kenzaki. Initially, they aimed to ridicule him, but over time he altered his appearance and his grades got better. Through this example, Alia realizes that the concept is that he requires a solid background to gain the support of others so that students recognize his efforts and everything related to that. Kusa clarifies that she must first demonstrate her eagerness to put in hard work, and for this purpose, they have the closing ceremony, 2009, or the school board speech, with the first one being in front of the entire student body. Regarding what he should say, she suggests he express whatever he feels, since the audience is more open if he speaks honestly. The key point is that she should not lie, as she is utterly charming, just as she is. Those words surprise Alia, making her blush at the compliment, though she tries to act as if it didn't affect her much. As they depart, Kusei remarks that they might face challenges if Yuki gets involved with someone like Sayaka Taniyama, who, back in high school, competed fiercely with Yuki when she won the election. The following day, everyone gathers at the council meeting, where Yuki alerts them that he intends to introduce someone. Moments later, a girl walks in and introduces herself as Ayano Kimishima from Class C. She will be joining the student council, taking on the role of managing general affairs. This announcement doesn't go over well with Akusi, who later speaks with Aya, but not privately as she requested. She informs him that the Lord has expressed his displeasure with his support for Alya in the elections, referring to the matter at hand. Kusi's grandfather. This doesn't please Kusi at all, as his grandfather told him that if he left alone, they would be strangers, and he wouldn't be able to recognize Yuki as his sister. But now he conveniently wants to act like family. Kusi explains that he will continue to support Alya, as he promises her that he would do his best to make the president. He also asks her to send a message to her grandfather saying not to blame Yuki, and that if she has a problem, then she should tell him to his face Q. It is made clear that Yuki is still the most important person in the world to him, so he asks Ayano to help her. Shortly after that, Ayano meets Yuki in an empty room to tell her everything he found out. Yuki is surprised to hear Kusi's message for her grandfather, noting that her brother is serious. Ayano also informs him that Kusi said that she is the most important person in the world to him. This makes Yuki lose her cool, needing fresh air, as she almost blurts out in school. Despite that, Yuki enjoys it, facing her prodigy brother, the family's greatest talent. At the student council, the girls play cards, and Yuki easily beats Alya. Meanwhile, the other council members are busy discussing each other's strengths and weaknesses. After some time, a tense atmosphere develops in the game between Yuki and Alya. Noticing Kensaki's concern, Kusei reassures him not to worry, as he knows Alya is actually enjoying the game. When the drinks run out, Masha decides to go buy more and asks Kusi to join her. As they step out into the hallway, she thanks him for his offer to introduce himself to Alya, as she is confident that, after seeing his attitude, Kusi asks him if he purposely hides his more responsible side from Alya. Masha explains that it's because she doesn't want to compete against her. Alya tries hard and always gives her all in what she does, and she loves her very much for being the way she is. Masha clarifies that living always so stressed out can be exhausting, and everyone needs to relax a bit, so she tries to be more relaxed when she is with her sister. Kusi tells Masha that she is a good sister, and she acknowledges this very proudly, though she asks him not to tell Alya. She also realizes that he, like her, acts to hide his more responsible side. This catches him off guard, but he comments to her that the difference is that he has no good motive behind it, as he only does it for himself. He acts like a bum to be quiet and for people to leave him alone, so he asks her not to notice that. Mashiak simply places her hand on his head to spoil him with caresses, encouraging him with a big smile, something that leaves him well embarrassed. This is something Kusei doesn't understand, wanting to know that she has no trouble getting through his armor. Later, we see someone call Alya down the hall to talk for a moment, introducing herself as Sayaka Taniyama. Cutting to the chase, Sayaka asks her if it's true that she'll be running in the election alongside Kusei. Confirming that this is true, she tells him that this is a very sneaky move, asking if he is not ashamed since he stole Yuki, the partner he wanted to run with. He mentions that he doesn't know what trick he used, but what is certain is that he chose a slacker as a partner, and can only imagine that he did that to spite Yuki. Quite offended, Alya denies that, but before the discussion can progress any further, Kusei realizes what's going on and runs straight to her to intervene. He lets her know that Yuki accepted her decision and that everything else is a misunderstanding of his, asking her to apologize to Alya if she said anything wrong. In response, Sayaka sees that the bad guy here is him, and after agreeing between the two, he challenges her to the student congress, something that draws the attention of the surrounding students. Wanting to defend herself, Alya reminds her that Kusei is with her in the elections, so if she wants to defeat him, she will have to face her too. Sayaka agrees to confront them both, saying that people like them do not deserve to be candidates for the council. Soon after, Kusei and Alya meet with Kenzaki to tell him what happened. Kenzaki sees that the topic for discussion at the school congress will be review of the teachers to get on the council. He asks them if they are really going to do it, as he doesn't think they will really gain anything from it. Alia clarifies that they will gain something, because if they manage to defeat them, their candidacy will gain legitimacy. Also, Sayaka insulted them both, so she will make her take it back and apologize. Kusei mentions that all of this is not so bad, because that way they will be able to present the candidacy before the closing ceremony. Zweitausendine Kensaki accepts both of their decision, so he plans to announce this at the end of the day. Later, Kusei and Alia talk about the strategy to take, and he shows her where Sayaka will go, since he already knows her well before he was Yuki's partner, but stopped working with her. She is clearly the favorite to be paired with someone else, so he doesn't blame her for doubting his motivation. Hearing that makes Alia understand that by someone else, he means herself, and that she was the cause of all this. In spite of that, she tells Akusei that she plans to make them win tomorrow. The next day, before the Congress, they both meet Sayaka's classmate, Nonoa Miyamai, who comes over to say hello casually. As Alia stands on stage, she sees the large crowd as the debate is about to start. She cheers up, doing it for Kusei, her partner. Hearing students doubt her, Kusei distracts her, calming her. He makes her realize that she is not up against Sayaka, as her rival is the perfect, idealized version of herself. He advises her that she doesn't have to be perfect, but that she should just do what seems right, and that she can rest assured that if she needs to, he will take care of it. These words help her to get psyched up, and then what? Saki starts the school congress. When Sayaka stands at the podium, she talks to everyone about the fact that right now, the council staff is elected by the president and vice president. So, anyone can join, even if they are not good students. But being on the council will place them above the school's hierarchy. Sayaka explains that this is why she suggests requiring teacher approval as a prerequisite. This way, only those recommended by teachers, those who truly have talent, can become part of the council. School council. Finishing her speech, she receives enthusiastic applause from the students. When it comes to Alia's turn, she recalls Kusei's advice to follow what feels right. With this in mind, she figures out how to proceed. After properly introducing herself, she challenges Sayaka's emotion, arguing that its goal might lead to the opposite of what is intended. She believes it could undermine the school board's authority, and in the end, this motion involves removing the president and vice president's right to appoint staff members. That would essentially be the same as saying that the school board is unable to function effectively without the assistance and support of the teachers. As she delivers her speech, you can clearly observe that she is performing quite well. However, both options remain valid, leading to a division among the students. Once she concludes her speech, a significant number of students also applaud Alja. From this point, Kensaki initiates the debate, with Sayaka being the first one to speak. Alia corners Sayaka in their argument. But then she hears students calling her an outsider, saying she knows nothing about the academy. Alia blanks out, and Kusei realizes it's Noah's doing. He steps in, taking over the debate and quickly gains control. Kusei's argument is incredibly strong, so much so that when it becomes Sayaka's turn to speak, she finds herself with no other option but to run out of the place. Nonoha acknowledges their defeat, suggesting that they withdraw their motion, leading Kensaki to conclude the school congress. As Sayaka runs away, she reflects on the team of Kusei and Yuki Zweitausendine. She had believed she discovered the perfect pair, recognizing that they shared a bond that was stronger than any other, realizing she would never have the opportunity to defeat them. That helped her to accept her defeat, although she felt some envy, and so when she saw Kusei next to Alia, she felt betrayed. Alia manages to catch up with her after a while and asks her not to hold anything back if she has something to say, but Sayaka mentions that she has no right to say anything and that she feels like a fool. In tears, she explains that she put them on a pedestal and put all her trust in them, but she felt betrayed and went to take it out on her. Nonoa arrives to calm her friend down, and before they part ways, Alia shares with Sayaka that even she is unsure why she was chosen by Kusei. However, she wants to ensure she made the right decision, so she plans to give it her all, hoping that one day she can confidently say it was the right choice. Later on, Alia confides in Akuse, telling her everything and promises to give her best effort, determined to prove she made the right decision by running with her and wanting to show the same to Sayaka. Sometime later, we see that Yuki has a family dinner where her grandfather, the head of the family, comments that the topic of the school congress, where Kusei, the heiress of Taniyama Industries, participated, knows that Sayaka competed against Yuki in the council elections in high school. So he expected good things from her Usand, but apparently she withdrew in the middle of the debate. That made Kusei's campaign gain legitimacy, so Yuki can't lose no matter who she faces. Although they might not possess the same level of aptitude as Kusei, it's important to understand that with a great gift comes a significant responsibility. These are responsibilities that her brother, unfortunately, chose to escape from. He was endowed with extraordinary talents, one-of-a-kind privilege, but he discarded it all. Therefore, losing specifically to him is simply not an option. When the boys finally arrive in class, the classmates engage in conversation with Kusei about the success he achieved at the school congress, eager to learn more intricate details about it. However, when Alia hears them talking about Sayaka, she isn't very pleased, so Kusei chooses to have a private conversation with her. During this talk, he reminds her that they both understand the reasons behind her actions. They didn't do anything wrong. They fought fairly. Therefore, there's no need to inform the others that it's inappropriate to speak about her in that manner. If they assist her in maintaining appearances, their victory at the school congress will be meaningless. Ultimately, what truly matters is what Alia decides to do. She insists that she wants to help Sayaka, and with this, Kusei decides to help her, agreeing to arrange this so they can go to the closing ceremony calmer. Alia apologizes because she knows that this will give her more work. But he asks her not to worry Zweitausendine, reminding her of what he said before, that he would help her in everything. Both have a somewhat romantic moment, or at least it is so for Alia, who looks at Kyuza with bright eyes. Seeing Kensaki and Chisaki, Alia leaves embarrassed. Later, Kusei talks to Nonoa, mentioning rumors about Sayaka and wonders if they can stop them. Nonoa questions why Kusei tells her, given she's her enemy, and noticed she pressured Alia during the congress. He doesn't deny that he already knew about it, commenting that it was a risk and could ruin his friendship with Alja. Even so, Nonoa makes it clear to him that he only cares about Sayaka, so he doesn't care about losing the rest. Because of this, she finally agrees to help him. So Kusei tells him the plan where they should only spread a rumor, giving a valid explanation that justifies Sayaka's escape. He knows that this will affect their victory, but he makes it clear that he doesn't care, and Noah agrees to take care of it. Sometime later, Kusei is studying together with Alia in the student council room. To her annoyance, Yuki and Ayano join them as well. After a while, Alia notices that Kusei is only reading the solutions and wonders if this method will actually help him prepare for the upcoming USAND exams. He explains to her that it's pointless to stress over problems he doesn't understand, so he chooses to spend that time memorizing the solutions instead. Noticing Alia's confusion, Yuki tells her to stay calm, explaining that Kusei has always been like that, and she doesn't support her in that. After observing their interaction for a while, Alia questions if they are truly just childhood friends, as they seem very close. Before Kusei can respond, Masha arrives to greet everyone and soon serves them tea. While there, she notices that there is a book on the table dealing with hypnosis, so she immediately asks her sister to try it, with her wanting to be hypnotized. Alia refuses in the face of this, so Masha asks Kusa, who agrees without any problem. To her surprise, after following the directions, Masha is successfully hypnotized, falling into a deep sleep at the touch of his shoulder. She wakes up very disoriented, not remembering what happened. Yuki suggests that Kusei hypnotizes Alia, as only then will they know if Masha is telling the truth or not. As expected, the hypnosis also works on Alia, although for some reason, Masha also falls again. Yuki takes advantage of the situation and starts telling Alia and Amasha that they are going to feel more and more uninhibited, freed from the shackles of common sense, and will undress body and mind. Both girls open their eyes in a state of hypnosis and start to do some strange things, involving Akusi. Everything gets weirder when Alya gets up and suddenly starts taking off her clothes. Masha starts doing the same, and Yuki remembers that it is true that she had told them that they would strip body and mind, panicking. Kusei tries to wake them up from hypnosis as before, but it doesn't work this time. Just at that moment, Chisaki arrives, and upon being informed of the situation, quickly decides to knock Alya and Masha out, managing to reboot them. Both girls wake up soon after, feeling extremely upset when they realize they are half naked. Chisaki approaches Kusei, aware that he has seen more than he should have, and she threatens to reset it as well, which leaves him absolutely terrified. Later, we observe Kusei struggling to focus on his studies at home, knowing that exams begin the next day. Although he's not the same as before, he understands the importance of working hard to ensure that his reputation doesn't negatively impact Alya. Just at that moment, he gets a call from her. She reminds him that she had mentioned before that he tends to procrastinate when alone, so she wanted to check if he was studying. Kusei admits he can't focus and asks her how she manages in such situations. However, she has no clue about that, as she never loses motivation. Then, she suggests a bet, saying that if he manages to be among the top, she will do anything he asks. She clarifies that it will be anything, and if she is unable to make it, then he will have to follow through with what she requests of him. Kusei agrees to his proposal, yet he grumbles that Alya has started to disregard his remarks, cautioning that it might upset his older brother's emotions. Alya questions what he means by that, considering they are both of the same age. However, Iku is reminded that he is already aware of his birth date, which is November the 7th. He knows this because it was mentioned during his introduction upon arrival. Meanwhile, his own birthday is April the 9th, indicating that he is already 16 years old. After an awkward silence, Kusei decides to end the call. Alya complains that he didn't mention his birthday to her, as she would have liked the chance to celebrate it with him. 5 days later, they both finish their exams, and Kusei is feeling really happy about it. However, he notices that Alya isn't completely happy. On the way home, he reflects on how she hasn't flirted with him in Russian since that phone call, which makes him realize that something is definitely wrong. Kusei decides to mention that he's noticed she's been behaving differently ever since the exams began, and she responds by saying she didn't want to stand out. Kusei elaborates that, while it may not be obvious at first glance, he's observed the change because she's his partner, and he genuinely cares about her well-being. Alya becomes slightly anxious upon hearing this, starting to twirl a strand of her hair nervously while they continue walking. She then curiously inquires why he didn't extend an invitation to her for his birthday celebration. Kusei explains to her that he hasn't celebrated it, and even though it's a common tradition in Russia, he hasn't done so since primary school, trying to hide his interest. Alya then shares that in Russia, if you don't invite someone to your birthday, it means you aren't getting along with them for that year. Jose then remarks that they'll have to celebrate together, even if it's 3 months late. After all, he wants everything to go well for them this year, so they shouldn't skip their belated birthday celebration. The following day, the two of them head out, and Alya appears stunning in her casual attire. This causes them to draw a lot of attention while walking down the street, though she's quite accustomed to it. He takes her to dine at a restaurant, where he begins discussing the closing ceremony, 2009. Initially, the presidential candidates present their policies, followed by their colleagues who elaborate on the reasons for their support. After every speech, the audience reaction comes, and the audience only applauds the couple they want to support. It would be best to give the speech earlier, this because the first couple usually doesn't bring out anything because the audience waits for the others, so they will have a ready excuse, even if Yuki appears. Alya doesn't show a very happy gesture for that, but Kusei clarifies to her that although they have more options, they would have to get their hands dirty, which she assumes she wouldn't like. A few minutes after their food arrives, Alya asks him if he was the one who started the rumor about Nonoa, regarding having people infiltrated in the audience. Kusele explains that it was actually her doing, and she had even initiated it on her own. This action will reduce the criticism towards Sayaka, but it will also cast doubt on the Congress's outcome, which is why she apologizes. Alya assures her that it's acceptable to her since she didn't contribute anything and couldn't have done so. Thus, she has no right to complain, and she is thankful for that. With him. Her kindness causes Kusei to display some embarrassing gestures, which she uses to tease him, finding him adorable for being like this 2009. This surprises him, as Johnny tries to conceal it by speaking in Russian, and realizes that Alia only becomes this aggressive when she believes he's embarrassed. Once they finish eating, Alia gives him the gift that Iku had hidden for him. It resembles one of those mugs that matching couples often purchase. Alia is really pleased she noticed that, confirming she has actually bought two just like it and is already walking around wearing hers at home Usand. Kusei is quite surprised, but she later makes him understand that she is just joking, or at least that's what she wants him to believe. The following day at the council, Kusei remains concerned that Mash might still be uncomfortable about the hypnosis accident, so he takes a moment alone with her to apologize for it. However, she tells him that it doesn't matter, and also that when Kusei leaves the school, she meets her paternal grandfather, Tomohisa Kusei, who is there for a meeting of representatives. As they enter the school, Alia comes out of the meeting, and as soon as he sees her, Tomohisa dramatically declares that she is a miracle from Eastern Europe. Kusei apologizes to her, explaining that her grandfather is a bit obsessed with Russia. At that point, Kusei meets Alia's mother, Akemikuha, who mentions that her daughter has told her a lot about he and glows as he does so. Kusei gets distracted by that, so Tomohisa immediately comes to Alia to ask her if she doesn't want to be part of the family by marrying her grandson. Hearing that, Kusei is upset to no end, so she rushes to strand her grandfather. Akemi leaves with her daughter soon after, although the daughter also asks her if she is going to marry Kusen, so Alia asks her to shut up. After Kusei leaves the meeting with his grandfather, he's unpleasantly surprised to find his mother in the hallway, recalling unhappy childhood memories. We then see Kusei's past, where he worked hard in his studies to bring perfect grades to his mother. Noticing her dissatisfaction with his piano skills, young Kusei believed he needed to improve, practicing diligently to enhance his abilities. With the piano, his mother suddenly interrupted him, demanding that he stop, without explaining why. After watching Asoku, he wakes up from his bad dream, noticing that he has just remembered unpleasant things from his past, and also realizing that he has caught a cold because of it. A short while later, Sala visits him, explaining that Yuki told her that he was sick and asked her to bring him some medicine. Kusei thanks her, and after so much insistence, agrees to let her stay to take care of him. Alia prepares food for him, and while Kusei enjoys how delicious it is, she decides to ask him if his parents are home. Kusei replies that his father is at work, and there is no mother, as they are a single-parent family. When the meal is over, she decides to continue sleeping, so he makes it clear to her that she can leave whenever she wants. Despite that, Ku wakes up many hours later, finds Alia and Ayano, who are wearing a Maite outfit. The latter approaches Kusei to lean on his body, so Aya asks her to move away from him. However, Aya doesn't make the excuse that Yuki ordered her to take care of him, so he can leave the rest in her hands. She also reminds him that he should prepare for tomorrow, and this is enough for Alga to leave, giving no explanation. The next day, Kusei wakes up better, although he notices that he again slept too much and school time has passed. Ayano greets him with food and medicine prepared, but something about it all makes him uneasy. Kusei asks Ayano to show him the medicine package, and upon checking, he confirms it causes drowsiness, which she already knew. He questions her, asking if Yuki requested Ayano to bring him this 2000 ein, but Ayano doesn't respond. She just apologizes and stays silent. Kusei decides to head to school, but she's warned he's probably already late. This makes him even more anxious, so he hurries to school. When he finds Alia, she apologizes for a mistake that messed everything up. Once he's calmer, she explains. We learn that after Yuki asks Alia to bring medicine to Kusei, she also invites her to be a guest on the next day's lunchtime broadcast. After a lot of insistence and pressure from Yuki, Alia finally agrees to accept. Yuki is thrilled, but even so, shortly after, she behaves aggressively, mentioning that it seems Alia has no intention of winning, because it appears they are determined not to leverage the success of the school congress. Yuki completely drops her friendly demeanor, clarifying that since Alia is an easy target, she had to give her a warning. This makes Alia assume that the broadcast is concealing something more. Yuki suggests her to ask Akuse for help if she wants, but Alia tells her that there is no need, as she doesn't want to burden him and is determined not to let herself be defeated. Alia prepares as best she can, and the day of the broadcast finally arrives, and before it starts, Yuki apologizes to her. She knows very well that it may sound self-serving, but she doesn't want to ruin the friendship between the two. And with all this, Alia ends up accepting her apology. In the year 2001, Yuki remarks that it might sound like an excuse, yet there is a significant reason why she must absolutely become president. She elaborates that she once had an older brother who possessed much more talent than she could ever have. Her parents and both of their grandparents had high expectations for him. However, one day he left them all behind. Therefore, she now feels compelled to fulfill her family's dreams in place of her brother. It is her responsibility to complete what he began. The story deeply affects Alia, and at that moment, Yuki inquires about her motivation to become president. However, Alia struggles to provide an answer. Just then, the broadcast begins, but Alia is so shaken that her presentation turns out to be quite awkward, and everything deteriorates further. Returning to the present, Alia concludes her recounting of the events, feeling extremely angry with herself. Kusei helps her regain clarity, explaining that Yuki's intention was not to be the star of the gold broadcast, but merely to... They had classes in the morning and there weren't many students left in the school. Yuki just wanted to get on his nerves and for sure he hoped to leave her on the floor. Understanding this, Aya manages to calm down, but is surprised to see that Kusei has an intimidating look with a smile very similar to Yuki's. Seeing him like that makes her blush, and she even says in Russian that that look suits her very well, something she likes. Soon after, Alia notes he couldn't answer Yuki's question about wanting to be president. He reminds her that she's captivating as she is, and knows how motivated and hardworking she is. Kusei kneels, asking her to lift her head, as her charms rival Yuki's, assuring him. After a few seconds, Saya ends up letting out a small laugh, as it almost seemed like she was proposing to him, and this makes him cringe. She thanks him, as thanks to his words, she was able to clear her mind. Moments later, Sayaka and Nonoa appear on the scene, and Sayaka explains that she wants to apologize for her actions and attitudes, even though it is a little late. She tells them that she is very proud, but things are what they are, and her reputation will be affected. Likewise, Gusai assumes that Sayaka plans to declare her defeat at the ceremony, so he clarifies that they can't let her make a fuss that day. He proposes another idea, and in the end, Sayaka agrees to follow his suggestion, something Nonoa also participates in. Sometime later, Alia and Kusi practice the speech she will give in the big audience hall. Seeing her nervous, he decides to give her advice on how to break the ice and attract attention, which Alia listens to and takes into account. Seconds later, Yuki arrives with Ayano to greet her, and to her surprise, Kusi speaks aggressively. He explains he's been classy and isn't mad, as attacking a rival's weak spot is obvious. Yet he feels odd, like petting his dog's head for biting him, but also wanting to teach it a lesson to prevent it from happening again. The tense atmosphere is interrupted by Kensaki, who arrives to decide the order of the speeches on the day of the 2009 ceremony. In the end, Yuki wins the decision after flipping a coin and after hard thought decides that he will go first. The next day, the closing ceremony finally begins, where the school board presentations arrive. When Yuki's long-awaited turn comes, she presents a suggestion box, making it clear that if she is president, she will be in charge. They have the opportunity to really listen to the requests of the students. What they offer is not much, but Yuki's way of expressing herself is enough to buy the students, and Ayano backs her up. Soon after, when she finishes her speech, she gets a shower of applause, and Kusi opines that she is a rostrum, as she said a lot of things without really saying anything of consistency. Already when it is Alia's turn, all the students are busy talking about how good Yuki is. However, they are all immediately silenced. When Alia unexpectedly begins speaking in Russian, capturing the attention of all the students present. After she concludes her speech in their language, Nativo apologizes on her behalf. explaining that she was so nervous that she accidentally started speaking in Russian. The students quickly realize it was meant as a joke, and they all laugh together about it. At this moment, Aya recognizes that the advice Kusei gave her the previous day was effective, as now the students are not focused on Yuki but are instead looking at her. And now she does present herself as it should be, telling them that she came to this school last year and does not have a record to boast about. She still lacks many things and is fully aware of that. But there is one thing she can say with her head held high, and that is that she is a person who works harder than anyone else. She has always wanted to achieve what she believes is the ideal result, and it is because she believes they should improve and aspire to the highest. Yusen Alya tells them that although she lacks many things, she is now before them with words from the heart and plans to solve their shortcomings step by step. She clarifies that if she was not sure that she can be a good president of the council, she would not run for the elections, so she asks them to be attentive to her, to what she does from now on, because that will give her more strength to be the president they need, deserve, and want. Applause from the students echoes through the place as she finishes, and finally it is Kusa's turn, who reinforces Alya's speech with his words. He wins over the audience naturally, having a talent for it, and ends with the whole element of surprise, revealing that Sayaka Taniyama and not Noa Miyamai will be joining the council when Alya becomes president. They themselves are introduced on stage, leaving everyone surprised, even Yuki herself. After that, the four of them line up in front of the audience, and after finishing the speech and saying goodbye, they are strongly welcomed by the applause and support of the students. When it's all over, Yuki admits that he was wrong to try to win with strategy alone, so he accepts his defeat today, but only for today. Later, Kusei and Alya walk through the corridors, and he asks her what Zweitausendine will ask her, since he has lost the bet they made by not being among the first 30, and he must do what she asked him to do. Ask. She tells him that she will come up with something, clearly having no idea, as she was sure he would win. Gu changes the subject, and somewhat nervously suggests that she start calling him by name. Inevitably, they both get very nervous about it, and with considerable difficulty, Alya ends up calling him by his name for the first time. When they leave school, with the same nerves and shyness, Kusi proposes that they see each other during the vacations. Aya approaches and asks him to look at her. He smiles and says it would be a pleasure. That's it for today's video. Hope you liked it. Find more summaries here. Support by subscribing and turning on the bell for updates. I'm Anizen. See you in the next summary.